What's going on, guys? Jake Pepper here, and welcome back to another episode of Underrated and Overlooked, where I take a look at movies that I feel are either very underrated or have been overlooked since the time of their release. Today, I'm talking about a great horror comedy from 2015 called The Final Girls. Now, this is a movie that I even didn't have the opportunity of hearing about at the time of its release, and it wasn't until I heard about it on a podcast that I sought after it, checked it out, and absolutely loved it, and have been watching it just about once a year ever since I saw it. And anytime I bring this movie up, a lot of people are always really surprised that they've never even heard of it because it's got a great cast, especially for the time that it came out. It's a crazy fun concept. And if you're really big into horror movies, this is definitely a movie to check out because it plays on so many horror tropes and pokes fun at the horror genre. And it's just a really fun time and a really, really entertaining movie. If you're not familiar with the movie, it stars Thaisa Farmiga as a young woman who just recently lost her mother. Her mother was a scream queen from the 80s. She was in a movie called Camp Bloodbath, which is essentially like this movie's version of a Friday the 13th movie. Her and all of her friends go to an anniversary screening of the movie. And while at the screening, the theater catches fire. There's mass chaos ensuing. There's no way to get out. So they decide to cut into the screen and try to exit out the back. However, when they do this, some form of magic happens, not really ever explained, unfortunately, and they get transported into the movie. And basically, they have to follow the rest of the movie and try to survive and find their way out and get back to their world. It's a really entertaining concept, like I said. I mean, this is kind of playing a little bit on the meta humor of like a Scream and things like that, but it does things that definitely sets itself apart. There's been plenty of other movies too where characters have been transported into movies, like Last Action Hero, and there's been others from time to time, but it's a fun genre, and it's one that I don't think ever really gets enough credit. And this is a movie, like I said, it's one that definitely flies under the radar because when I bring it up, pretty much everybody I ever bring it up to have never heard of it, but it's a really, really entertaining movie. It's consistently funny because it is poking so much fun at the horror genre. It's poking fun at all the tropes and things like that. I mean, hell, the title of the movie is called The Final Girls. So it's playing up the trope of, there always being a final girl. And actually, the movie too has some pretty sweet and tender moments that you wouldn't expect. The relationship between Thaisa Farmiga and her mother, who's played by Malin Ackerman, is fantastic because you don't really expect, you know, things to get real sweet and tender and things like that. You don't really expect the dramatic moments here because a lot of it is played up to be pretty silly and ridiculous. And while there's plenty of that throughout the entire runtime, it is nice when there's those more intimate moments between some of the characters. And to go along with Taissa Farmiga and Malin Ackerman, like I said, the cast here is really great. You have people like Adam Devine, from the Pitch Perfect movies, Workaholics, all kinds of good stuff. Alexander Ludwig, who was in the first Hunger Games, and he's gone on to have a pretty decent career. Alia Shawkat from Arrested Development, among other things. She's great here. You have Thomas Middleditch, and you have Nina Dobrev, who at the time of this movie's release, she was doing the Vampire Diaries. So you have a really good cast of, you know, mid 20s actors and actresses, and everybody here's doing a really good job, having a really fun time. If you're a big fan of the Friday the 13th movies, this definitely plays into those a lot more than any other horror movies because essentially the movie that they get transported into is Friday the 13th. It's about a guy who was bullied as a kid and then basically comes back to get revenge on all the camp counselors who were at the camp that let these kids do these horrible things to him. So it's literally, Jason Voorhees. But this character's name is Billy, and he wears kind of like an old tiki mask, but he's going around chopping up kids with a big machete, just like Jason. So it is, humorous in that regard to see it kind of play up a lot of the tropes, especially from the Friday the 13th movies. This movie's very meta, and if you're somebody that's not really into meta humor, you might not really be into what's going on with this movie because that is a lot of the humor is kind of pointing out, what's happening in the movie. But that's kind of the whole conceit of the movie too, is, it's literally these people going inside of a movie. So if that's not your cup of tea, this may not be up your alley. But if you do like that kind of stuff, especially when it plays into the horror genre and plays it up for laughs, then this is definitely one that I recommend you guys check out. It's consistently funny. It's actually got, I mean, it's not really gory. It is PG-13, but there are some funny kills here and there. And there's a couple that are, I would say, somewhat brutal-ish, despite not really showing any blood or gore or anything like that. But it's a brisk, 91 minutes. So it gets in, gets out. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and it plays with all the characters in the right way where you actually care about these characters. And when things start to go bad for some of them, you do actually, I won't say tear up, but you do, feel bad for the characters and things like that. So it's nice to see a movie like this make some of the characters likable and make you want to see them make it to the end. But yeah, that's about it for me, guys. If you have had a chance to see The Final Girls, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews and more episodes of this segment here. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one.